You're listening to the Cinemental Podcast.
Shall we begin?
Welcome back to the Cinemental Podcast, where we discuss mental health themes from cinema, television, and popular culture. I'm Jeffrey Jones, and I'm a filmmaker and professor, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother, Dr. Joshua Jones, who, as well as being the it guy of his homeschool, is also a general and forensic psychiatrist.
Jeff, not only was I the it guy of my homeschool of one, I was also the IT guy. So I did it. I did it all.
I might have gotten those confused.
I was not ever homeschooled.
Josh, who's not even the coolest guy in the room if he's looking in a mirror, is a general and forensic psychiatrist.
Oh.
That's brutal.
Josh, who finished runner-up in his homeschool class of one for most likely to succeed.
That's right. Oh, ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. All right, we want you to start your week off right with our podcast. So we drop a new episode every Monday morning at 9 a.m., and then a supplemental episode every Wednesday where we take a deeper dive into our topic of the week. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, or you can watch our hottest, spiciest clips and now full episodes on YouTube. Josh, today we're talking about Mean Girls, which I'm so glad that we chose to cover because it was such a fun rewatch. And there's so much here to talk about in terms of mental health. This was great. This was a fun kind of dive back into the 90s or aughts or whenever the hell this movie came out. I think it was the aughts.
2004.
2004. There you go. So if you haven't seen it, this movie follows Regina George, who's the it girl, the alpha girl, trying to do her best to motivate people to be their best selves until she's thwarted by a subversive transfer student, Caddy, who the hell cares, Heron, who viciously manipulates her into eating Colteen bars and turning her friends against her. Just as Regina is about to regain her status, she's violently pushed in front of a bus, proving you just can't trust immigrants. Sorry, foreign exchange students. Sorry, Lindsay Lohan.
Jeff, that is a fabulous retelling of the story. Podcast over. yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, Josh, tell us what the topics of the day are going to be today.
So we're going to talk a lot about bullying. That's what Mean Girls is about. That's probably also going to spill over into our Wednesday episode. We're going to talk about control, the psychological dynamics behind it, and what you can do about it. And then we're also going to talk about how comedy has changed, because in the 21 short years between this movie and now, there's some things you just couldn't do again.
Yeah, and also what's interesting, Josh, I'm going to get into this more, but the way you write comedy has changed. Not just the jokes you can tell, but like the style of comedy and the practice of writing comedy has changed. So I'm excited to dive more into that. Okay, we do have a sponsor this week, Josh, which I'm pretty excited about. So you know I'm a fan of Bernie Sanders.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
Well, he just wrote a tell-all book about his time in Congress. It's a tell-all straight from the marble halls of Washington, where gossip is currency and grudges last longer than filibusters. Inside, you'll find the juiciest stories Congress doesn't want you to know. Who's taking money from big abortion? Who's always strapped in committee hearings? Is there a list more damning than the Epstein list? Bernie has all the dirt and all the hot goss. This is sure to be a smash hit, so pick up a copy of Bernie Sanders, or as I like to call it, the Burn Book today.
Nice. Great play on the Burn Book, Jeff. You know, and speaking of big abortion, when I was, during my time as an elected school board member, I once got accused in open session of being in the pocket of big abortion.
That's where I got it from. I still think it's one of the funniest things I've ever heard, and so I've been looking for a chance to use it. Thank you, Bernie, for being our sponsor of the week. In all seriousness about Mean Girls follows Katie Heron, a teenager who spent most of her life in Africa being homeschooled, as she enters the social jungle of an American high school for the first time. At North Shore High, she quickly learns that survival isn't about academics, but about navigating the rigid hierarchy of cliques. She's taken under the wing of Janice and Damien, two outcasts who warn her about the Plastics, a trio of ultra-popular girls led by the manipulative Regina George, which, by the way, chef's kiss on the name Regina George. There's a certain art to naming characters, and like, you know, basically Queen
George, yeah.
Queen George, fantastic. At first, Katie pretends to befriend Regina as part of Janice's plan to sabotage the Plastics from within, but she soon gets caught up in the allure of power, fashion, and popularity. Her double life spirals out of control as lies and schemes escalate, culminating in Regina's downfall and Katie's own identity crisis. In the end, Katie learns hard lessons about honesty, friendship, and authenticity, realizing that true belonging comes not from ruling the social order, but from rejecting it altogether.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I didn't write that. It's okay. But this is a movie about bullying.
Yeah.
And there's a great scene towards the middle, Josh. I guess it's toward the end. Tina Fey's character takes over the assembly, and she has the girls raise their hand if they've ever been bullied, and she has them raise their hand if they've ever been a bully. And everybody raises their hand both times. And I thought that was a really profound statement, especially at the time, about just how we treat each other and the nature of bullying and how nobody ever wants to call themselves a bully, but we've probably all bullied before in our lives.
Yeah.
Let's talk just generally about bullying. I know we're going to do a kind of a deeper dive into bullying on Wednesday, but it's an important theme, so I think we have to talk about it today.
Yeah. So Jeff, watched this movie again for this podcast. Obviously, you and I set up that we were going to talk about bullying. That's what Mean Girls is about. I was interested in watching for the very first time in the film that bullying appeared. And I believe that the very first bullying that you see is actually perpetrated by the teachers of Katie's when she first starts there. She, of course, is coming from being homeschooled in Africa. When she first gets there, the very first day, she is told by a bunch of teachers, don't do that. You can't do that. You can't go to the bathroom, sit down. And she said, the voiceover is that the first time that she was made to feel small by a bunch of adults. And I'm like, that's the very first part of bullying.
I didn't think that.
So I watched it with that eye, and I'm like, and that's the very first part of this. So Jeff, let's talk about bullying. Let's talk about what it is. Bullying are people's attempts to make others feel small. Is it an attempt to identify others and to push out and say, I'm better than you? And it really comes from a desperate attempt to obtain control. Probably stemming from a deep-seated, or maybe not even so deep-seated, maybe pretty superficial, lack of feelings of their own power and security in their own lives. Often people who bully are feeling either generally or in that moment a profound sense of helplessness or low self-worth, and exerting dominance over others allows them to compensate. None of this excuses the bullying behavior.
No, absolutely. And I think it's important to mention, sort of at the offset, we're going to explore every part of bullying, which means we're going to explore the bullies. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to demonize bullies because there's mental health things going on in bullies. And it's painting with a broad brush to call somebody a bully and not like a person exhibiting bullying behavior, because we can all be bullies, and you and I have talked about before that, like, we were both somebody's bully in high school, and, having to come to terms with that and sort of admit that it's like, whether I want to admit it or not, I was that person's bully. It's interesting to me how quickly bullying seems to start, Josh, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I do think this fits into the definition that you just said, but like when kids learn a new skill and then they immediately lord that knowledge over another kid who just hasn't learned it yet. It's them trying to find their place and have a feeling of superiority that helps to balance them, that helps to grant them control. Is it about safety? Is it about security?
Well, both safety and security have elements of wanting to control dangerous environments or what you perceive to be dangerous. So, I mean, you're right. You can see this behavior happen on the playground. And so a question is it learned behavior? Is bullying learned behavior? Is it a natural outgrowth of being humans? And the answer is it's probably both.
Right.
We are wired to view the world as dangerous. When you and I talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, as we have at times on this podcast, we talk about that being a over-exaggeration of the brain's own defense mechanism to view the world as dangerous and then to remember this is the cave in which the saber-toothed tiger killed all my relatives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
What saber-toothed tiger hurt you, Josh? Because you often use saber-toothed tiger as your villain in some of these things. Do we need to talk about a saber-toothed tiger in your past?
I don't know. I just think when I'm thinking about like something that terrorized our ancestors, I think saber-toothed tiger. It is more dramatic than just saying, crushing hunger and disease.
Sure. A blood clot that left untreated just slowly, crushed your lungs.
Yeah. The ice age that is coming upon our ancestors from, volcanoes that explode. I don't know what to tell you. It's saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So
that's true. That's true. All right.
So the world's an inherently dangerous place.
I can't imagine it's fair to say that everybody will at some point in their lives be a bully, but I do think that no one's immune to wanting to find their place in the hierarchy. And I think it's a very human thing to do. And so in a way, like bullying is a very human thing to do. And obviously you have characters like Regina who take it to the extreme. How do we age out of bullying? When does bullying behavior end? When we get that security, and how do we do that?
Yeah, great question. The other thing I think inherent in your question there, Jeff, is that why is bullying easier than the alternatives? And I think it must be. It must be easier than the alternatives. It must be easier than taking the time and having the vulnerability to learn about the other people that you're interacting with. You see this played out in the movie when they go through the diagram of all the different cliques in the cafeteria. So much easier to just label this group of people as the band nerds and, all the other labels that they did than go and learn who they are. Part of this is a survival mechanism that we have to try to make sense of more data in our world than we've ever been able to really think about.
Right.
And so much more now than it's ever been before.
The silver bullet here is and will always be the one moment that you need to take to choose empathy instead of reaction.
Yeah.
And when people bully, it tends to be reactionary to an immediate emotion. And it's a negative emotion that you act on. I doubt that empathy is triggered naturally in someone from a negative impulse. You might walk down the street and see someone suffering and have empathy for them. But it's hard to have empathy when you feel attacked by somebody. And if you take that one extra step and have empathy and be like, I wonder why that's happening. Like that to me just really does seem like the silver bullet. It can solve a lot of problems because bullying is on the rise. Like you cannot get on social media now without feeling the effects of somebody bullying somebody. Like my social media feed just blows up with people who are just crapping on other people. And it is bullying. No matter how you want to slice it. If you're talking negatively about another person, it's a form of bullying. Even if they deserve it. If you think they deserve it, it's a form of bullying.
Well, look, people get a little bit of a rush from bullying. Like we said, it is likely a response or a behavior that is meant to satisfy some deep-seated anxiety about oneself. It is the junk food of emotions. It is a quick hit, is a quick fix. It's easier to do than some of the other responses. Let me give you a very quick example of the opposite of, like you said, making the conscious choice to have empathy. Yesterday, I was having a pretty tough day. There were some things going on with my kids that we're working through, and they're fine. Don't anybody worry about that. But we're just having a rough day. And I was playing tennis with my neighbor, and we do this frequently. And we were done. And he told me a quick anecdote, and he stood up to leave. And I chose that moment, not purposely, just in the train of consciousness to say, you know what, blah, 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 my kids, and I'm just really having a tough time. And I saw him take a deep breath, and he sat back down. And so I laid out my issues. We talked about it. And then he said to me, as we were done playing tennis, I was pretty tired. I was ready to go home. It's been a long day. You were clearly needed a moment. And I thought to myself, what would Josh Jones do? And I said, Josh would take the moment to sit down and spend whatever time needed to listen and hear out and provide support. And that's what I chose to do. And that's what he chose to do. You don't often get examples where someone, is able to express exactly what we're talking about. The moments where you have to make a choice to be empathetic as opposed to taking the quick and easy junk food hit to bully.
It's a good thing that Biff had the time to do that with you that day. Yesterday.
Biff?
Yeah, you were on the tennis court, so I assume you were at some sort of country club with Biff and Muffy.
Jeff, thank you very much for showing our viewers the opposite and going right into bullying mode, you motherfucker.
I was playing tennis. I was on my sailboat with
Fuck off.
Captain Feelings Pants.
Jesus.
All of that is well said.
Wow.
I want to get into some other stuff. We're going to talk about bullying a lot more on
Yeah.
Wednesday because we're going to talk about what you can do
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And we're going to give parents, I think, some ammo as to what we can do about bullying and help sort of shape things better for our kids. So Regina George, Josh, is a fascinating character. We used to do a diagnosis for characters every single time on the podcast, and I kind of miss that. Do you have a diagnosis for Regina George?
I do, with a big caveat that's really important. Regina George meets criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. She is all about herself. She has no empathy for others. She believes the whole world revolves around her, and she's callous. She's bullying, and all these things are part and parcel of narcissistic personality disorder, which we do theorize comes from a deep-seated, very unconscious feeling that the world is dangerous and that you are actually worthless. And so one acts very subconsciously, and often not in a way that is easy to modify, acts in a way that is very narcissistic. Now, here's the giant caveat to that.
She's a child?
She's a child. That's right.
Yeah.
And personality really doesn't solidify until your mid-20s. Around 25 is what we think is kind of the, quote, magic age. So we in the psychiatric community rarely, if ever, diagnose personality disorders under the age of 18. If it's really stark and dramatic, and we're very sure that this is going to be unalterable, we will go ahead and diagnose it. And sometimes we do that with antisocial personality disorder specifically. For Regina George, I would make the case that it might be a helpful diagnosis because if she was coming to treatment, it would inform the type of treatment that you would do. But even if you do diagnose somebody with a personality disorder at that age, you have to understand that can change. You've got time. She's got about 8 years to make significant changes, both to herself and the parents would have to make some significant changes too to help her gain the ego strength to not have her narcissism be a personality disorder.
So the scene with the mom, I think, is really fascinating. And it's a good joke about how she says she kicked her parents out of the primary bedroom. I don't know that I buy it, but again, it's funny. But then we meet the mom, and the mom is trying to be cool. She's trying to be the cool mom, would rather them, I think, drink there, wants to connect with her daughter. You kind of get the sense that like she wants to return to high school. Does that mean that she was probably a bully in high school and that was her best time? What did you glean from the relationship with the mom?
That's what I gleaned from the relationship with the mom, is that high school was probably her best time and that she was trying to hold on to that. I mean, that is one interpretation. Could be other interpretations. Of course, the mom was played with over-the-top brilliance by Amy Poehler.
Right.
That's absolutely fantastic. But
also, Josh, spoiler alert, and I'm going to talk about this later. I watched the remake as well because I was super curious. Busy Phillips did a great job too. She was the mom in the remake. Busy Phillips was fantastic. So both moms in the Mean Girls movies were great.
Busy Phillips commits to the bit in every role she's ever in. Yeah, completely true. I will say one thing to parents, though, about the Amy Poehler character. You are not your teenager's friends. And I really, really, really wish that parents would understand this. You can be friendly, and you should be, but you are not their friends. You need to set boundaries. You need to stick to them. Your boundaries and what's allowable in your family obviously change over time as your kid grows up. But you are not their friends, and you need to continue to parent them, probably even past the, age of 18, which I wish wasn't true, as I'm about to have both my kids over the age of 18, and I want to just kind of write that off, but I won't. You're not their friend.
Josh, let me ask you this. Janice is the first friend to Lindsay Lohan.
Yes.
Janice wants Katie to join the plastics to get information about them so that she can use it against them. Janice is being a bully here,
Totally.
Right?
Yes, agree.
Even if she's feels justified because Regina screwed her over before, this is still bullying behavior.
Agree. I would posit it's not just bullying behavior towards the plastics. it's manipulative and somewhat bullying towards Katie as well.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that because this is the next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about control because I didn't realize how much this movie was actually about control. You tell me if control goes hand in hand with bullying. The other plastics were bullied just as much by Regina, if not more, because it was an everyday thing that they were being put down by Regina. And so, yes, they were bullies to other kids, but the other plastics were getting annihilated by Regina, and she was treating them that way as a way of controlling them, controlling how they dressed, what their hair was, who they could date. Regina was a master of control. Is that a part of bullying, or is that a completely different thing?
You know, this is where we start to cross some lines for me towards relationship abuse. So we think about domestic violence and domestic abuse about, and properly so, it being in, intimate relationships. But there is just as much, interpersonal abuse that can happen between really close friends, such as these folks. When you're talking about that level of control that Regina had over those characters, you start to tiptoe into that area, at least for me, as I'm thinking about it. You can make the argument that the other two plastics bullied Regina as well, but not nearly as much. It was clearly their level of, quote, bullying was almost allowed by Regina. And so that's where I think we start to get into a level where I would call it abuse as opposed to bullying.
Yeah. It's a specific kind of abuse though, right?
What do you mean?
Because we're talking about something that's like, there's a toxicity to it. It's almost like a cultish type of behavior. It's manipulative.
Well, it's control. Everything you're talking about are
gaslighting.
Everything you're talking about are code names or types of control.
Okay. So there's not much difference. I don't think we knew about gaslighting back in 2004. It'd be curious to see like when gaslighting like became a term. But we certainly didn't know as much about it as we do now. And it's massively clear that there was a lot of gaslighting that was happening.
For sure.
God, how do you prevent yourself from getting gaslit?
Oh, well, good question. I think probably the best way, as I'm just thinking off the top of my head, is pick good friends. pick good people around. It goes back to self-confidence, which I think goes back to, for me, humility. I'm realizing as I age more and more that humility is the secret weapon to all of this, to everything that we're talking about.
Humility and empathy, baby. It's a 1-2 punch.
To understand that you don't have all the answers, to understand that you're not supposed to have all the answers and won't have all the answers. If we want to do anything to solve humanity's interpersonal problems, it would be to create a humility curriculum that starts in kindergarten.
Sure. I see all these single people online. It's mainly women, just because I don't think that men post about this stuff as much. But there's a lot of like kind of whining about men and how like crappy men are. And I remember there was a woman who was like complaining about, like, she explained her favorite movie was Across the Universe, went into this like deep dive about how amazing it was. And then the guy was like, oh, my favorite movie is Interstellar. And she was like, can you believe the dating pool? And just as a married man of 15 or so years, I can tell you that, like, in my experience, and again, this is something nobody asked for, it's really simple who you should find. Someone who's funny and someone who does their absolute best to be kind. And if you can find those two things, it doesn't matter if they can explain their favorite movie. Like, we're looking at the wrong things. But there was something that you just said, which I think is great, is that one of my criteria also is find a partner who it's okay and is supportive of mistakes.
Sure.
Find someone who it's safe to make mistakes around. Because if you don't have that person, this is what leads to these walls, these protective barriers that are put up. And be the type of person, cultivate being the type of person who is safe to be around when other people make mistakes. But I'm like, God, that's all you need. Funny, best to be kind, and be safe when mistakes are made. If you can find that person, it doesn't matter if they can describe their favorite movie in colorful language. You know, did they listen to you drone on about your stupid favorite movie. That's the important.
Did they listen to all of your podcasts on which you drone on about your favorite movies?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I said Across the Universe, but it was Across the Universe. And I'm
yeah.
like, that was a dumb fucking movie. Anyway.
Is that Across the Universe? Is that the one with?
It's so.
Is that the one with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, and they're going to find a new planet?
That's Interstellar. Okay. Yeah. It is funny though. It's Across the Universe, and they're basically the same movie. It's just we're going across the universe. Interstellar, Across the Universe 2.
What about Ad Astra? Oh, that was Across the Universe 3.
I just did the Alien 1 thing, Josh, and I should have done Ad Astra, except nobody watched Ad Astra, but I made the whole point that you just say like something in space. And I loved Ad Astra. Ad Astra was just Apocalypse Now in space. It's the exact same film, like the exact same movie.
Yeah.
I wish it had done better because I think it was a phenomenal film. But okay, Josh, a couple of silly things that I want to talk about before we wrap up today's episode that I think were funny. The burn book. You can't talk about Mean Girls without talking about it.
Nor without talking about the jacked Tim Meadows character. But anyways, the burn book.
Tim Meadows is awesome. Okay, so the burn book. When I first saw the burn book, you're like, oh, what a shitty thing to do to have this burn book. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think a burn book is all that unhealthy.
Oh, boy. I think it is.
Really?
I do. I think it is.
You don't think having a place to kind of vent your feelings is a good thing?
That's not what you asked. Of course, having a diary or having a journal, a place for vent your feelings is a good thing. But putting a specific negative, hurtful, cruel tone and having that be the theme of the book, I don't think that's healthy. Do you?
Interesting.
I mean, I'm sorry.
I
don't think that's healthy. Look, is it wrong? Is it bad to have those thoughts? No, they pop into everybody's head. Everybody has these thoughts. Is it right? Is it healthy to put them all down in one place and lean into it as that's the reason to have this tome? I don't think that's healthy.
It's so funny. I hate disagreeing with you when we talk about mental health stuff, but I also was told by, a friend of mine, I was like, I love your podcast, but like you and Josh need to fight more. This is one I think that we can kind of fight on. Exactly what you said, where it's not unhealthy to necessarily have those feelings. I'm a huge proponent of when you have these feelings, explore them, because that is the nature of being a writer. And I know what you're about to say. It's not the same thing. The burn book isn't the same thing as the exploring of the feelings. But there is a magic, I think, to writing things down. It sort of acts as an expulsion to be able to write it down. And then you have a place where it went. And so that energy sort of leaves you. Being the type of person who has something where you're crapping on people, I hear you. That's up for debate as to whether that part is healthy. But I do think that writing things down, as negative as they might be, is an admission that I had that feeling and then getting rid of it. I don't know. I don't think that's that unhealthy.
Again, that's not what I said. I said having a burn book as they had it was unhealthy. I agree with you. Having a journal, having a diary in which...
Well, what was wrong? What was different about the burn book than what I'm saying?
Well, they had it as a group. They had it as a team. It was clearly a way to bully people. It was clearly... Look, they meant for that thing to be discovered from the moment they started. That's the only reason why you would share it with each other like that. Doing what you're talking about and having a journal where you write down all your feelings and all your thoughts, yes, that is good to get that energy out. You weren't prepared to have this fight with me, obviously, because your shirt is on.
That's such a deep cut between you and me. No one's gonna get that. I'm gonna put that song in the link. Mm-hmm. Did you ever have anything that was close to obviously not a burn book, but did you have anything that you did to sort of get rid of these feelings when you were in high school or at any point in your life?
Yeah, I journaled. I have journaled off and on throughout my life.
And have you ever said Jeff's being a big butt face today?
Pretty much sure I have.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, probably. I mean, honestly, I think that I had one when I was in middle school. I'm certain that it was a lot about, girls I liked at the time and what a dick my younger brother was.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so journal is okay. Burn book is not. Josh can, I guess, describe the
argue
difference.
with me in the comments below. I have no problem with that. Let's talk about this.
Okay, Josh, last one, and this is the most fun. Let's talk about fetch.
Yep.
I love fetch. I wanted fetch to happen, and it never became a thing other than just famously the thing that doesn't catch on. Do you remember if you ever had a fetch or if we ever had a fetch?
Do I? Yes, I do. So, couple stories here. One, we were coming back, our family was coming back from Expo 86 in Vancouver, Canada. And for some reason, I decided I want to make up a word that was going to catch on, a lot like they did here. And this was well before Mean Girls. This was 1986. So I decided that wheat was going to be the word. I was like, I tried. I tried with my friends. I was like, that's so wheat. And they're like, what? No, not what wheat. And they're like, huh? Yeah, and I will still to this day occasionally drop like, oh man, that is so wheat. And people will still go, what? And then, so that was mine. Ours was probably hammersack.
Yeah, which is an absolute shame. Hammersack should have caught on. It should still catch on. I stand by hammersack to this day. If you tackle someone behind the line of scrimmage in football, it's a hammersack.
Sure.
So it's a sack if you get the quarterback. If you get the running back behind the line, it's a hammersack.
Sure.
And it's a fun thing to say. Yeah. Hammersack should be a thing.
I believe.
Josh, my current one, and I will die on this hill, and I know it's a fetch. It's hot tent.
Oh, yeah.
I love hot tent. I love it so much. You get the fire emoji and the tent emoji, and it's short for hot content. So when you put something out online, it's hot tent. And I love hot tent, and I will not give it up because it sounds a little wrong. And it is my fetch, and I will die on this hill knowing it is a fetch. I have no problem with that.
Jeff, has anybody else other than me, because I use hot tent all the time too, has anybody else caught on to hot tent?
No, people have certainly made fun of me for it though. But I'm not cool enough to coin something. I remember being a kid, the first time I heard fresh, people were like, oh, that's fresh. Yeah. And I remember hearing it and I was like, yep, not cool enough to say it. I can't pull it off. I was like, that's for the cool kids, and I'm not one of them. I can't say that things are fresh, and I never said things were fresh. And that was a cool phrase for like 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember a couple friends saying, oh, that's so fresh. I don't think I've ever used it. I mean, I may have used it once in a while, but I haven't used it as part of my general vocabulary. I just don't. Yeah. I don't think it's cool. I've never thought it was. Yeah.
The one my students use all the time is Riz. And that's probably like not cool either anymore. But I was teaching a sci-fi class and somebody was like, oh yeah, this character's got a lot of Riz. I'm like, what the hell is that? And they were like, oh, Jeff, you're so old.
Right.
Short for charisma. And I was like, yeah, I don't have it, guys. I'm not trying to have it. I'm old. I don't care anymore. I have a wife. I don't need to impress anyone. I'm good. I'm happy not having Riz.
I have also many times in my life leaned into my relative uncoolness and will take words that people are using and use them completely wrong and try to kill it for them. For instance, I am currently dropping skibbity into everything I possibly can.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Completely wrong.
My favorite one of all time is Booyah. That's not a fetch. That caught on. But like, I love Booyah. Booyah was just such a fun thing to say. I want to bring back Booyah. I also like Booyah bass if something was really cool. Put on the Booyah bass. Booyah bass is such a fun word. All right.
Jeff and I have made up a lot of words that have never caught on. Another one we did was butterbone.
Oh, butterbone.
Smooth like butter. Straight to the bone. Butterbone.
Yeah, if you were smooth, if you had Riz, you were butterbone. Oh, we're dumb. We're very, very dumb. All right. Thanks as always for watching and listening to Cinemental and our coverage of Mean Girls. Tune in on Wednesday. We're going to go much deeper into bullying. We're going to talk about what you can do about it, what parents can do about it. I have a lot of thoughts about this because we've covered bullying before when we did adolescence, and I have more to say about it now because I've thought about it. If you like this episode, please subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also watch clips of Cinemental on YouTube, where we'd love to hear what you would like us to cover next. You can also watch my companion series, The One Thing, where I take a deeper dive into screenwriting, and I am going to do a Mean Girls episode. Both are available on the Large and in Charge channel on YouTube. Follow Dr. Josh Jones, America's Psychiatrist, on Blue Sky. This has been a Large and in Charge production. For Josh Jones, I am Jeff Jones, and we will see you next week. Also, we forgot to talk about the changing nature of comedy, so we're going to cover that on Wednesday as well. So we might start with that, and then we'll do bullying, but tune in for that in Wednesday's episode when we continue talking about Mean Girls. We'll see you then.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.